Hi Bernie, thank you for making the time to speak with us today. May I ask you to start by introducing yourself, please?
Yeah, thank you, George. Thanks for the invite. I'm Bernie Porter. I'm a consultant nurse and I've worked with people with MS for over 20 years.
Fantastic, thank you. And the question I have for you today is, please can you tell us 3 things that every person newly diagnosed with MS should know?
First thing is that the diagnosis of MS can have a psychological trauma, and this is as important to be dealt with as any physical symptom. The good news is there's a lot of psychology tools available online and health professionals who can help you with adjusting to the diagnosis. The second thing is that the body is an amazing thing. It's got fantastic ability to recover, to compensate and to repair. And you can help this as a person living with MS by, embracing exercise, having a low animal fat diet, taking a vitamin D, keep it by the toothbrush so you don't forget. And if you're a smoker, please stop smoking, because smoking is associated with progression to disability. And the final thing is that you need to build confidence in managing the condition. So you need and find someone to help you with this, and that might be some of your family friends, your GP, a MS nurse, but you need to get the confidence to ask health professionals, what are the best available treatments for my MS? What are the pros and cons of those treatments? And what will you do to help me to manage this condition?
Fantastic. Well, Bernie, there's a lot to dig into there. But initial questions for you. You mentioned initially the psychological impact of a diagnosis. I know firsthand how significant that can be and how long it takes to come to terms with a diagnosis. Do you have any advice for anyone who doesn't necessarily have the health professional psychological support to hand? How can they kind of help come to terms with MS?
Yeah. I think the first thing is to acknowledge it, to actually be able to say to yourself it's okay to be annoyed that you've got this diagnosis. I think we have a culture of a very stiff upper lip, and some people have told me over the years that they felt that they didn't have permission to be upset about it, because guess what, it wasn't something really serious like cancer, and that people feel a little bit embarrassed about talking about the emotional trauma. So I think being able to get the confidence to share that with someone, just to say, do you know what, I'm not really happy about having this diagnosis. It is causing me a problem, and then the doors will open. But you need to sort of have the, search out and share that feeling that you have inside you. Because if you don't do that, that has to be dealt with, and it's better to be dealt with over the first few years than perhaps later on down the line.
When I was diagnosed 12, almost 13 years ago, there wasn't, I don't think, the evidence there about lifestyle factors.
Yeah.
What's changed in the intervening years?
Yeah, well, I think the evidence base has got better, and also I think that we've moved from a very modical model of care across the world, and people are beginning to understand that improving exercise has real dividends. And sometimes I think health professionals in the past, we used to overprotect people with MS and suggest that they couldn't exercise or shouldn't do things, but we now know that anything that involves increasing oxygen up and through the central nervous system will give you benefits. We know that that fats in the nervous system full stop are detrimental, so it makes sense to think of a low-fat diet. We know that smoking causes damage to the nervous system, and we know that vitamin D has potential neuroprotective properties, and there's a lot of interesting science coming through there. So I think the evidence base is getting better, but also the world of science are getting a little bit more confident in embracing those areas.
Brilliant. Well, there's certainly a checklist there for living a kind of more brain healthy lifestyle.
Yeah.
Well, Bernie, and your final point, I think, was about making kind of proactive, positive decisions.
Yes.
And I think that's probably the one thing I take away from today's conversation is the amount that people with MS can do to make adjustments in their life to really support their condition.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that if you think that living with a long-term condition, we're all consummate consumers of other aspects in our life, and we know what best looks like. Well, we should be looking for best in our healthcare as well, and getting the confidence to get that for yourself.
Brilliant. Bernie, thank you very much for today.
You're welcome.
Thank you.